What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about Jaws. Jaws came out in 1975 and is directed by the legendary Steven Spielberg, and it was written by Peter Benchley and Carl Gautier, and is based on a book of the same title, a novel that I've actually never read, and has a fantastic cast with people like Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, a beautiful score, arguably the greatest score we've ever seen in any shark film by the one and only John Williams, and fantastic cinematography from Bill Butter, who would go on to do things like Grease, Anaconda, Child's Play, Rocky 2, 3, and 4, and the list goes on and on. I'd like to welcome you guys to the first of my Jaws series. I'm very happy to be joined on this series by my buddy D Movieman. We covered Love and Monsters together not too long ago, and I thought, why not have him back so we can actually talk about an entire series? So we will be covering each individual Jaws film over the course of the next few weeks. So a big thanks to him for joining me here in this video. We're gonna hear his thoughts in just a little bit, but again, thank you so much. And you guys can find the link to his channel down below in the description box. Go give him some love, let him know I sent you. But for now, let's get into my thoughts on the iconic film, Jaws. Now, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this here on the channel before when I've covered Steven Spielberg things or when I've discussed Steven Spielberg, but he is without a doubt my favorite director. Now, there are probably arguably other directors whose works I love more than Steven Spielberg's at times, but ultimately I find him to be my overall favorite filmmaker. Majority of his filmography are some of my favorite films of all time or hold very nostalgic places in my heart. He's defined a generation for filmmakers and created films that are iconic and have gone down in movie history for years and years. The man is consistently doing it, and even though his latest entry, West Side Story, wasn't the biggest box office success, that film was absolutely well done and has been critically praised by most people who have seen it. So how does Jaws hold up? Well, before we get into that, I do want to mention that I have the biggest irrational phobia of sharks, and this movie is 150% one of the reasons that happened. Now, I want to make something abundantly clear. Even though I am petrified of the ocean, petrified of sharks, and was always horrified anytime I went to the beaches of Miami where I grew up when I had to get in the water, I do know that these creatures are not how they are depicted here. This is a monster movie about a monster shark that's doing monstrous things and eats everything and anything in sight. So for anybody who feels the need to comment down below, well, this is not actually how sharks interact with actual humans, this is not how sharks actually are. Come on, we know this already. With that said, though, I'm still horrified of them. They freak me out. The look, the feel of them all around, sharks just freak me out. There's something about those lifeless eyes that just completely horrifies me when I see anything about them. And for a huge period of time as a kid, I even struggled to just watch anything that had any footage of sharks in it or any images of sharks in it. With that said, though, and with all my fears, I have seen countless shark films because for me, these are the ultimate horror films. I'm not very easily scared when it comes to horror, at least I haven't been since I was a young boy. I grew up watching a lot of horror and just kind of having my toes dipped into horror imagery. So at this point in my life, at nearly 30 years old, I'm not really ever scared by anything. There are moments where I watch something that make me feel uneasy, and I kind of chase that experience when I'm going into a horror film. But when it comes to a horror film that is just genuinely gonna give me chills and make me feel uncomfortable, almost always a shark movie is gonna do it, whether it's good or bad. Now, of course, something like Sharknado is not gonna freak me out, but anything like Jaws is definitely gonna freak me out, even with the animatronic of the shark sometimes looking fake, obviously, and not looking like a real shark. Ultimately, though, this film is tension-filled, and what I love about it is Steven Spielberg really hones in on the characters and doesn't really bring the shark into the forefront all the time. That's something I really enjoy about this film. There is a creepy element to the shark not being on screen, so when it does show up on screen and we get that huge third act climax, it feels paid off, and it doesn't really feel like the shark has been overused, which helps with every time that you see the shark, it becoming a bit creepy to see, especially when you see the animatronic. I don't know if you're like me, but I definitely have submechanophobia. It's something I didn't even know was a phobia until somewhere this last year when I was coming across videos on it. And essentially, it's a fear of like man-made things under the water, specifically animatronics, things you can see at theme parks, abandoned locations, like statues, figures, or some sort of animatronic that's underwater. Even if it's supposed to be cute when it comes out of the water, The question is, would you be freaked out if you were in the water with that thing? And of course, when it comes to a shark, I'm already afraid of them in real life. So put me with an animatronic shark in the water and I'd be freaking out. I should also add on that the one time that I've ever ridden the Jaws ride at Universal Studios before they got rid of it here in Orlando, Florida, I got on because the girlfriend at the time forced me to get on, and as soon as I got off, I threw up. That ride had me completely and utterly freaked out from beginning to end, and even though the animatronic on that ride looks exactly like that, an animatronic, the idea of being in the water with that thing gives me more nightmares than anything else in the entire world. So with all that said, I do actually enjoy the animatronic in this film. You know, there are times like when he jumps onto the, back part of the boat and, he's just munching everything where it kind of looks like a Pac-Man shark, it's so unrealistic at those points. But there are so many moments where they use this animatronic shark to come in and out of the water or go behind like the cage like I put in the thumbnail. And the shark just looks so big, massive, and eerie, and it has those dead eyes like a real shark that it, without a doubt, definitely makes you feel uneasy. Outside of that, though, this film is a really great character movie. It really focuses on these characters. You understand who they all are by the time we get to the last part of the movie, and you're rooting for them. This is not one of the many shark films where you're just kind of watching everybody be fodder and you're just kind of waiting for the shark to show up to kill everybody. It's not one of those movies. This is a movie where you are rooting for the humans, and this movie really set the tone for all those shark movies that we'd get in the future, and it's so funny that they've really never really been able to live up to the masterful writing and storytelling of this one. Now, of course, there are other great shark films that have come after this that have definitely played off of Jaws really well and given us great characters, but a lot of them have just turned into schlocky, gore-heavy, sharks murdering people the entire time, or things like Sharknado. And so in the case of Jaws, what I really enjoy about this film is how much detail Steven Spielberg put into the characters, so that by the time we get to that third act, really it does feel like it pays off. And again, you're rooting for the humans. You're not just sitting back waiting for these annoying humans to be eaten by sharks like most other shark movies. Now, obviously, there's so much more to talk about on this movie, but I want to go ahead and pass off the floor to my guest, Movieman. A big thanks again to him for being here in this video. And yeah, I'll get back to my thoughts in just a moment.
Hey everyone, this is Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today, I'm coming to you all with my second review collaboration with the one and only Anthony A. Perez. I am definitely excited to be collaborating with you once again, and I also think it's pretty ironic that, much like the theme of the last film that we reviewed, this film also is centered around a creature that is very much larger than life. And that is none other than the 1975 film Jaws, based on the 1974 novel by Peter Benchley, directed by Steven Spielberg, and starring Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw. So, I'm going to start with the pros. I mean, what can I say? It's a classic for a reason. First, let me say that I have very fond memories of Jaws as a kid back in the 90s. And that's primarily due to my experience with Jaws the Ride at Universal Studios. I remember seeing the film on television before that, but I think being literally put into the story really cemented my appreciation for it. I mean, where else can you experience the feeling of having the side of your face melting due to a gas explosion? What jumps out immediately to me about this film is the wonderful and iconic score. I don't think anyone to this day, even if you haven't seen Jaws, there's no one that can hear dun 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 and not think Jaws. I mean, it's been referenced in so many different projects, movies, TV shows, and so on. And what's so great about that score is that we literally open with that. And so immediately we are thrust into this environment where we know like something is not right, something is wrong, there's this sense of doom and danger and alarm. And considering the opening scene, we find out why very quickly. That score, of course, was created by the legendary John Williams, who I was first introduced to in Jurassic Park, which was another collaboration with Steven Spielberg, and quite possibly one of my favorite films of all time. The cinematography is also something that stands out to me, especially in the opening scene when we see the water and how striking and mesmerizing that entire scene is. I mean, it's the perfect idyllic scene. You're young, it's the summer, it's the beach, you just jump in the water and you're relaxing, and it's just the perfect moment, right? Which is why it is so shocking and so horrifying when the unthinkable happens. I mean, we literally go from 0 to 60 in just a few seconds. And what's so scary about that is how quickly it happens, the helplessness of that situation, and how once it is over, it is once again calm and serene, the perfect picture, like nothing has ever happened. Which brings me to my next point, which is that Jaws is basically a horror film. It may not look like one, and it's a very unlikely horror film, but it is very much a horror film, and that is immediately established in this opening scene. I mean, the main antagonist of this film is basically a semi-invisible, silent killer that targets all of its victims at one of the most popular places in the world, a beach. I mean, I don't know about you, but it doesn't get much scarier than that. What makes it even more scary is that we are dealing with animal instinct and hunting. These people are all being preyed upon by something that is intelligent, that is crafty, and relentless, which is a very dangerous combination. I mean, every time that our main characters feel like they've made some progress, that they figured everything out, then boom, another curveball is thrown at them. This also adds to the tension of this film. This is an extremely tense film, which I have a love-hate relationship with because I love that sense of dread it gives us, but it also just makes us anxious and you're waiting for something bad to happen. You know it's coming, but you don't know when. But it makes sense, and it's a really great parallel to what the characters are experiencing throughout the film. There is a really great shot here, probably one of my favorites, where we see our protagonist set sail to locate this shark and destroy it once and for all. But it begins inside of Quint's house, where we see the skeleton of a shark's jaw that's sitting in the window. And as we move forward, we see the harbor and the boat as the jaw and the teeth specifically loom over the boat. The implication being that they are literally and figuratively sailing into the belly of the beast. And I love that. I also thought the story was very compelling, especially considering that our main characters are trying to make everyone in this town aware of what's going on, and everyone should know about it so everyone can be safe. But the people who are in charge just want to make money, and they know, like, hey, this is the summer season. If we shut this beach down, we're going to lose a whole bunch of money. And so, of course, they are prioritizing their finances above the safety of these people, which was shocking and frustrating to watch, but not surprising. And I don't know, I just got this really weird feeling, like, how crazy would it be if there was some kind of current real life circumstance that paralleled this exact same situation? And I love that with the story and the writing specifically, we are developing our main characters in a very interesting way. So having these heroes who are quite the motley crew do the thing that no one else is willing to do, I think it makes for a very compelling narrative. And what adds to your appreciation of them as these unlikely heroes is that we actually do learn about them, and they are given a lot of depth and dimension. One of the best examples of that is with Quint, and when he shares his story of his very traumatic experience with the war and with sharks specifically. And it is a brutal story to listen to, but then it also adds to his motivation for wanting to get this thing out of here. So I'm going to jump over to the cons. And I must say, I don't have many. The only thing I can say is that there are some moments when we are seeing Brody, Hooper, and Quint out on the ocean. There are some of those moments that seem to kind of stretch a little bit, and they seem to kind of like labor on a little bit. I do think it's necessary because we do have to understand this is not an overnight process, and it involves a lot of strategy and a lot of waiting. But there just were a couple of moments where it did feel like it was really kind of like stretching just a little bit. And as far as the ending, I do appreciate the simplicity of it. But I have to be honest, a small part of me, given what happens earlier in the film, I really just wanted to see our main characters come back and just rub it in everybody's face. I gotta be honest. We were right, you were wrong, now what you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? But maybe that's just the petty part of me, and I'm willing to let that one go. So I'm going to give Jaws an A. Like I said before, this is a classic for a reason, and it was a film that was so ahead of its time and so innovative and really made its impact. And it's a film that is very much timeless. No matter how you might look at the mechanics or the effects or the time period it's set in, there is something very simple and straightforward and timeless about this story, which is a big part of why it's such a great film. And with that being said, I'm very appreciative of the legacy of this film and this franchise. So thank you once again, Anthony, for putting me on to another great film, but this time one that I had the chance to revisit and appreciate in a whole new way. And of course, I'm thankful for another opportunity to collaborate. And once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off. And I'll see you at the movies.
A big thanks to D Movieman for joining me here in this video. Loved hearing your thoughts. I'm always very interested to hear what you have to say on a movie or TV show. And if you guys are not already following D Movieman, I mean, what are you doing? He's got a great channel over there where he discusses, like I mentioned, movies and TV shows and various things. He does episode recaps of various shows and has a very analytical approach to breaking down his pros and cons for everything that he talks about, as you can see on display in this video. So a big thanks to D Movieman. We'll be hearing from him very soon again for Jaws 2, but a big thanks to him again for being in this video. You guys can find the link to his channel down below. Give him some love. And let's get into my remaining thoughts on Jaws. Roy Scheider as Brody. I mean, top-notch performance here. I really thoroughly enjoy him. He's a very compelling actor, and he, brings a real approach to this character. This guy who wants to be, the sheriff and tries to do the best that he can for the people, but he's having to battle the people of this town, the business owners, the mayor, on whether or not they should shut down the beach. And it just seems like he's the only one who really cares about the safety of the individuals here. And he just gives such a great performance in this film, with one of my favorite moments being the scene where he's chumming the water, doesn't realize that the shark is coming, and then pops back in fear when the shark comes out of the water.
I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this shit.
If I'm not mistaken, I saw some behind the scenes thing where he talked about how he just really tried to blank his mind for that moment, to really just kind of have this very visceral, real moment where somebody is just like fearful but doesn't really know how to react, and I think he nails it perfectly. I really thoroughly enjoyed that scene, and it's one of my favorite moments and one of the most iconic moments in the entire movie for me. Robert Shaw as Quint, I mean, what is there to say about him that has not already been said? He is one of the most believable characters in the film. In a lot of ways, he's like the Van Helsing of this story. Like I mentioned, this is a monster movie, so he's that character that appears and said, well, I'll take out your shark. And, we've seen that kind of thing before. Like I said, he's like the Van Helsing to the Dracula story. He's here to stop the beast, here to stop the monster.
$10,000 for me by myself. For that, you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
And there's this great monologue that he gives in the later part of the film where he's just talking about his past and talking about an experience that he had with a shark. And that scene alone is so well done. The performance there is so top-notch from not only him, but the other two in the scene. You have Roy Scheider and then you have Richard Dreyfuss. They're all really great in this third act altogether. But yeah, Robert Shaw, I think, gives a great performance, a very believable performance as Quint, which is something that I really enjoy about this film. And then, as I mentioned a moment ago, we have Richard Dreyfuss in this film as well, who plays Hooper, our oceanologist, I believe is what his role is. Is that what it is? I'm not sure, but he's the expert they bring in to, kind of bring in some info on how sharks work and how to deal with this shark.
Who are you?
Matt Hooper. I'm from the Oceanographic Institute.
Oh, for Christ's sakes, you're the guy we called.
And overall, I just really thoroughly enjoyed this trio. At first, you don't really know that they're gonna be a trio, and the movie doesn't really set them up as a trio. But once you get in that third act, that camaraderie of these three people that start to kind of get delirious and tired on this boat as they're hunting down this absolute massive beast. Yeah, I think they all do a great job, and without a doubt, I think the performances are one of the greatest things of this film. And then I gotta jump straight into John Williams, because not only does this give us the iconic dun 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 dun, but outside of that iconic theme, he also gives us so many great moments of music. There are so many whimsical moments of this film that sound like something out of Star Wars, Indiana Jones, or Harry Potter. And you don't really think about that. That's one thing going back and revisiting it that stood out to me more so, because I haven't seen this movie in probably a little over 10 years. This is a movie I've seen plenty of times. In my younger years, it was always on TV, and I am a big Steven Spielberg fan. But in the last 10 years, I can genuinely say I hadn't gone back to revisit it, and I forgot just how good the score is for this film. Of course, it's John Williams. I expected it to be good, but I forgot that it was so whimsical, that it has so much going on. It has so much flair, and even though it's iconic for, essentially a two-note song, what's fantastic about the score here is that it does not hold back, and it gives us everything John Williams is known for to this day. And overall, this is just a good, fun shark film. I can see this movie being a little boring for some, depending on who you are. If you've never seen Jaws before, I think it's a movie that's definitely worth watching. It's a movie about the characters that has a shark, as the poster, and is the big monster, is the big threat. There is a sense of stakes, but I love that this movie doesn't hone in and focus on the shark that much. I love that this movie doesn't make it about the kills. There are great kills. There's a great use of practical effects, not only on the shark, but in people getting killed and different kinds of explosions and props. And there's just so much about this film on a practical level that works from beginning to end. And again, I just love that this film really focuses on the characters, allowing us to root for them, which is something I would love to see more of in a lot more shark films. There are plenty of modern day shark films that have given us a very similar energy, but there's a lot of shark films again today that really just hone in more on the gore, the kills, and the shark, and kind of make these characters unlikable so that you're kind of just waiting to see them killed, almost like a slasher film. And what I love about this film is that it really focuses on the characters and makes sure to honor the characters by the time we get to the end. And I think Steven Spielberg had a great vision for this film. There are moments of this film that still make me so uneasy, especially when the animatronic is in the water. Again, submechanophobia, there's something about it. Even when it does look fake, it still is so eerie and creepy to me. And there are moments where these actors are interacting with this animatronic shark where you forget that it's fake. It looks real. The tension, the score, John Williams' score, everything going on in those moments, the camera angles, everything about it definitely makes it feel eerie and uncomfortable. And yeah, this movie is definitely one of the scariest movies in my personal opinion, just because of how uneasy it makes me personally feel. I know it's not going to be the case for everybody else, but for somebody who's not really afraid from traditional horror, and I don't really easily get scared from anything about demon possession or any of that crap anymore, something like this where you could go out in the water and be destroyed by this, flesh monster with teeth, is pretty horrifying. So that's going to be my thoughts on Jaws, and a big thanks to Movieman for joining me here in this video. Loved hearing your thoughts, and I can't wait to do Jaws 2 with you very, very soon. So a big thanks to you guys for watching. Please hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. If you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out, and I'd love to see your beautiful face in the comment section down below. Leave your thoughts on this movie. Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Have you seen this movie? Whatever you want to comment, leave it down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.